So I guess I ended up in Uganda because I saw there was a growing aquaculture industry or fish industry, and I saw there's a tremendous amount of potential. I came and did some research out here, and there's been a lot of focus on helping farmers over the years, like for decades really. And generally the help has been in the form of, well, let's just give them the fingerlings, the small fish, let's give them the feed, so feed the fish, and then they'll sort of sort themselves out. But actually that is too simplistic a solution, because actually when you go and talk to farmers you realise they've got so many problems. They don't know where to sell their fish, they don't know how to sell it. So for instance, we've got some fried fish in front of us. This is an innovation for us because people weren't frying fresh fish like this, and this is smaller as well. So we've got a new product because it's fresh and it's fried. We've got a different size, and we've got different ways of selling it. So we hawk it, we sell it through markets, we sell it to customers, institutions. So all of this takes a lot of effort, and farmers didn't have access to the market, which is a big thing. So they would come to sell their fish. They go to a pond, they collect all the fish, which is potentially thousands of fish, hundreds of fish. And fish without a cold chain, without ice or refrigeration, will only last less than 24 hours really. So huge amount of pressure. You're doing this once a year. You're going to sell 1,000 pieces of fish. Where do you sell them? And so that's one of the reasons that farmers can fail, or perhaps they just don't lack the expertise, they don't know when to feed them, they don't know how fish eat, all these types of challenges. And we saw all of this and thought, right, let's see if we can come up with a solution that addresses the main problems that farmers have. So our motto here at RAD is we should be able to do everything a farmer needs to succeed, we would provide. That's really the sort of core of what drives us. So we came as a family to Rukungiri. I think really, well, so I'm a Christian, I have faith, and I really think it was God that helped us to get here. I had no connections with Uganda previously to this. And in fact, actually, for a long time I was going to go to Ghana because there was a growing fish industry that I wanted to look at in Ghana. And then about 6 months in, I was focusing on this particular area, and then I found that somebody had already done that piece of work on that specific area, and that's quite hard if you're doing a PhD because you're supposed to do unique bits of work. So suddenly I was like, well, what can I do? I'm going to have to pivot. Meanwhile, we also had another family that we wanted to go with because they, we had children, and we wanted the children to be able to homeschool together, just live as two families for personal reasons. And they had found this place in Uganda there's a hospital. He's a medical doctor, there's a hospital. They were like, let's go there. And I was like, okay, well, how on earth do I make sure that we can get to Rukungiri? I know nothing about the industry. There's no connection there. I've been focusing on Ghana, like what happens here. And then that very day, I went to a webinar, and I was just desperate to talk to anyone about fish. So I went to the guy was talking about fish up rivers. And it just so happens that he was going to Uganda to do an aquaponics project. And I was chatting to him, and they said, oh, aquaponics, so that's an interesting technology. I know a little bit about that. And he said, well, do you want to come with me to Uganda? And I thought, perfect. And so next thing I knew, I think it was a week or two later, I was booked onto a flight to Uganda. And I knew in my head I was going to use that as a base to sort of begin to understand the industry and see if it was possible. And then, yes, that's exactly what happened. So all the doors opened for us to allow us to come to Rukungiri. When I arrived in Rukungiri, I didn't even know if there was any fish farmers because I looked online and there was no information on them. But I knew that at the very least I could go 8 hours away to Kampala and do research there on fish farming. But I just happened to meet Pauson, who is just behind me over here. He's in Rukungiri, and he's a fisheries officer, and we sort of snowballed from that. So he was very helpful in helping me to find fish farmers and start the research, and that's how the journey began. And then a couple of years later we managed to come back here full-time as a family, coincidentally with the other family that I mentioned before. So we actually did 2 trips with these families and at the exact same time, so it was pretty amazing really. So the hope for us is that we will make a change in people's lives, like have an impact, a meaningful impact. We talk about, over the years we've sort of explored what that means, and I think there are three sort of pillars, if you like, that we think are important. One is food security, so making sure that people have access to affordable protein. Fish is the best protein by far of anything. You know, you compare it to anything, it's fantastic. It's really good for you from a health perspective, and we want people to eat fish. We know it has really good outcomes on your life, and we also want to provide income. People in this part of the world are very poor, and they don't have many ways of earning money. So fish is a good way for them doing that. So, you know, people can earn money from fish, and some people think of it as they treat it as a bank. So you can keep your fish in a pond, and then when you have an economic need in your family, you can go and harvest those fish, and it gives you a large amount of cash, so you can pay for some medical bills, or you can send your kids to school, that type of thing. So there's an income component there for farmers, and also, you know, when we employ staff, of course, that's what paying people's jobs. And then the third one is we want to do it in a way that doesn't damage the environment, and if anything, it brings back to the environment. So there's a way that you can do pond-based aquaculture where actually you help restore the natural environment. And so those are the three reasons that we set this up, and those are the sort of ambitions that we're trying to do. So it's always a constant sort of juggle of making, so you'll see the fish that we've got here, actually it's quite small. The reason for that, and that's not normal, people normally go for sort of a fish that's this big, whereas these fish are sort of up to about here. They're much smaller, but it's because it's affordable, because people's incomes are so low that this now is a fish product that people can afford and buy. So, you know, we talked about affordability as an important part.
Yeah, I'm called Pauson. I'm one of the directors of Rural Aquaculture Development, Rukungiri RAD Limited. I work with Dr. Tim, who is seated with me here. I'm pleased to be with you here. Thank you so much for visiting us. Yeah.
So, Pauson is my good friend and my partner, and we started RAD together, so we're sort of co-founders. Unfortunately for me, I had to go back to the UK because, well, you know, family reasons really. And so Pauson is the one on the ground now, so he's in charge of the day-to-day operations of this hub. And my role has changed, so I now work with a team of people in the UK, what we're calling RAD Global. And our job is to help with strategy and implementation of hubs. So we're really here to support Pauson to develop. And he does a very good job of that. He's a very good director of this hub. Do you want to tell us, Pauson, about some of your duties, some of the things that you're doing?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Tim. Having you is my great pleasure. Here, basically, I coordinate the team, the staff, and I connect them to farmers. You know, RAD has a lot of duties and responsibilities. Fish farmers have hopes in RAD. They have nowhere to go. Some of the fish farmers had left fish farming, but when RAD started, they have come back and renovated their pond and their sides. They started eating fish, and so many things. So the major activity I do is to make sure that fish farmers get fisheries extension services. Of course, it is one word, but it looks global. That one includes getting quality seeds or quality fish fingerlings. It includes feeding. How do they feed? How can they how can they reduce on the cost of fish feeds? For example, it's where now we introduce black soldier fly.
Yeah.
And black soldier fly is very fantastic. The reason is, what you do, you have the garbage, anything that rots, not a plastic, and then you just gather them around, then you put eggs, and then you produce maggots. So you find the fish farmer is reducing on the cost of feeds more than 50%.
And we feed the maggots to the fish.
Yes, we feed maggots the fish, but we don't feed the maggots fingerlings when they are still small.
Yeah.
So, and of course, maggots are very good and very nutritive and delicious, because when you throw them, you find the fish jumping. No, that's one of the extension services we give. Then we help them to construct fish ponds, and that one also includes water quality. We test their water, whether fish can survive or not. And I am pleased that now we have some testing kits to test the pH, the acidity, so on. Then usually before RAD came, I used to test water using frogs. I look at the water, when I find there are frogs, then I say fish can survive. So so RAD usually is pushing us a step ahead. So after pond construction, then we also follow them. We help in sampling. Is the fish growing? Is it not growing? So now, so there is a lot of work we do there until the farm harvests. So when a farm harvests, RAD will buy his fish or her fish. You look at it. So we take responsibility of marketing the farmer's fish. Then the farmer who has sold the RAD fish, then he comes back and buys fish fingerlings for restocking the pond. Of course, before she restocks her pond, RAD has a responsibility to help him renovate the pond. We don't give her money, but what we do, we direct him what to do. That's what we do. So it becomes a cycle. We also RAD asks the farmers not to begin with many ponds. What we do, we say you can begin with one pond or two. Then if you think or you realize the profit, then you go to a next pond. You construct another pond. So to go to next pond, it means the farmer is already sure what he's going to do. So, and again, we also make sure that people access fish. We have people who are above 70 years. They are quite old. They can't access animal proteins. So we make sure that every week they access fish and quality fish. So what we do, RAD, in terms of food security, is doing a fantastic job. And most people locally here think that food security is having food in the printer. But RAD says no, the quality is also key. So people think if you have a lot of food, maybe maize flour, but we look at the quality and what is there. Is it nutritive?
Nutrition.
Nutrition. So now, RAD has gone ahead to feed children, the compassion centers. So these centers, they care for vulnerable children. So what happens, the funders always buy them maize flour, that's the portion, and beans only. So we think if they can add fish menu on their diet, it becomes very fantastic. So now, what RAD does, it sells small fish, nutritive, good quality, but affordable. You look at it. So it means 1,000 shillings. I don't know how you can make it in a dollar.
It's like 30 cents in dollars, 20 pence.
Okay, can be 20 pence. Someone can access fish, which had never happened before. Because according to Fisheries Act in Uganda, you are not supposed to have a fish less than 300 grams. Or we have these seine nets, gill nets. The way they are designed, they cap a fish of a certain size. So if they find you with a fish which they think is not captured by that gill net, they think you were practicing illegal fishing. So in due course, we found that it's only a certain class of people, middle class, who can access fish menu. But what it says, but again, Fisheries Act says, in aquaculture or in fish farming, every size of the fish is supposed to be consumed. So it's now the community now has an opportunity. So every family has an opportunity to access fish.
Yeah.
The difference is in the size. That's it. So that's what RAD does.
So just to expand on that point, the because we are farming fish, but there is also fish that's caught from the wild, and that fish has to be caught, has to be big, because of course then if you catch the small fish, you're doing overfishing. So that's why the people are used to bigger fish, is because quite rightly we're not trying to overfish, but because we're farming fish, we can sell the size that we want because we're not hurting the environment when we do it. And it's actually better for farmers to sell smaller fish because they're quicker to produce, there's less risk, etc. So we're helping farmers by selling smaller fish, and customers because now they can afford those fish.
Yes, that's very fantastic. And again, people culturally didn't know the value of fish. In fact, locally here, people who ate fish, maybe grasshoppers, maybe chicken, were considered to be poor, the poorest families. They didn't know the value of the fish. We have also some cultures that don't eat fish. But now, RAD goes to the radio and local television, and it tells them exactly the importance of fish. I always illustrate some of the examples on local radios that I have not heard someone who has gone to the hospital and then they ask him to leave fish. We have seen them recommending to leave maybe beef, to leave goat's meat, and so on. But I haven't seen recommending them to leave fish. It means fish is very important for our human health. So now people have come to say, no, fish is very important. So that's very key.